isn't working like I planned.
You don't need 3D scanners, you don't need CNCs, you don't need 3D printers, you just need a vise.
But you need a bearing for that.
And a casing.
Sure.
Yeah. And an asher.
And an asher. And a hammer.
And today we've also needed Sean, so, and Kyle, and Max, because he explained
a total of like 6 people
to change your clutch and flywheel into 370Z. You ready for another install video?
I'm ready, baby. I'm always
370Z clutch and flywheel. So full how-to guide, pro tips, everything you need to know. Let's run over the components real quick. But quick run through, performance lightweight flywheel, get rid of that dual mass. Lucas opted for the street performance clutch with the sprung clutch disc. He wants to kind of keep the OE feel there. And our new CSC Elimination version 2. And
spicy.
bro, that's hot. I'm excited about this one. It's the first time I've ever touched this kit. So we're gonna have one of the engineers come down, give me a little explanation on how it all goes together. That way we can tell you guys the most accurate installation information. So yeah, step 1 is let's disconnect that battery negative and get this thing in the air a little bit and maybe start doing some shifter stuff on the inside. So disconnect negative side of the battery. And again, we're gonna be taking the transmission out, which means the starter has to move. Just disconnect the negative. That way there's no chance of possibly making contact somewhere you don't want to. All right, so now we're inside. We're going to, wow, that was ear piercing. Remove his shift knob. There we go. Put that in a safe spot. And then you're going to take your hand and kind of curl it underneath the boot right here, underneath this bezel, and just pull up, just like that. And then it'll kind of rock out. To give you a little bit more room, you can pull the transmission or the shifter down into fourth, and then just slowly kind of wiggle it out and up. So once you got that piece off, pull up a little bit on this rubber boot, just separate it from the top of the shifter. And then there's 4 10 mils around a metal bezel that kind of sandwiches the bottom of this rubber boot to the body. So ratchet 10 mil with a little swivel adapter on there because these 2 rear ones are underneath this center trim piece. So the front 2 are pretty easy to get to, but those back 2 you're gonna want some sort of swivel. And while you're doing this, take extra care. Cool. Yeah, go ahead and pause. Cool. Now for these rear 2, I'm just gonna put it up in third just to give me a little bit more room. Yeah, on the 370s, those 2 bolts are a lot more underneath this center console than on a 350. There it goes. But once you get those 4 screws out, this upper boot's loose, then we can kind of pull up on the bottom. All right, so once you get those 4 bolts out, grab a pair of needle nose and the wiring harness that runs down the passenger side. You're just gonna have to squeeze these clips and push it to the side. There we go. Where the first clip was, that metal tab that kind of hangs up, you can use it and just kind of pull it up. And bingo. And then now you got another rubber boot. Pull that up around the edges, pull that off of the shifter as well. Set that to the side. And now you have 3 10 mils that hold the shifter to the transmission. And now this plate can come off. Set it to the side. that's all we need to do on the interior. We'll put it on a lift, get in the air, and get underneath the car. A couple of the technicians mentioned, good note, you don't have to remove the whole centerpiece, pulling all those rubber boots out for the shifter and everything. Once you get underneath the car, if you don't go through that process, you can drop the transmission just a little bit. Like here's the front, here's the back. You can kind of lower it like this, and you can get a 10 mil ratcheting wrench up top and just do those 3 bolts that you saw in the interior. Reason why you might want to do that, if you're not changing shift knob, you're not changing the short shifter or the factory shifter to a short shifter, you don't really need to do all that, but you risk a chance of scratching interior pieces, moving everything around, especially in 370s, all that nice leather. That is a thing. And also that triangulated plate with the 310 mil bolts, that determines your reverse lockout. And if you don't align it just right, you may have issues getting into 5th and 6th. It just allows for more stuff to go wrong by doing this. Now, you don't need a lift to get your car off the ground, but it helps. Can you take me higher? You know, I'm glad that Creed finally made a comeback. I gotta lie, I was a closet Creed fan. No shame. All right, now that we got the car in the air, next step is exhaust. We're not gonna get into details of what size tools and everything because everybody's exhaust is different. So yeah, let's get this off and then we'll take it from there. Just get them started, and then I'll grab an impact because I put chrome on an impact. Down towards you. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Now that we got the exhaust out, drive shaft is what I'm going after next. Typically, you would want to at least loosen the W brace. It doesn't stop the drive shaft, but this heat shield does. However, if you look right here, that's folded metal. There's a bolt underneath that. This is your discretion. You guys are working on your own car. What we're gonna do, this heat shield is very thin, very malleable. I'm gonna get that one wrong, It's very bendy. The owner doesn't really care one way or the other, right? So we're just gonna bend it down to get the drive shaft out, and when we slide it out, we're gonna put a rag over this metal edge here. That way it doesn't scratch or gouge out the drive shaft. These W braces are the lowest point on the car, and we see it all the time. They get beat up, they get scraped, especially if you've lowered the car. So this may be a route you wanna take. If not, you would drop the W brace to get to this shield to take it off completely. So now we're gonna go over to the 417s for the drive shaft and get this thing out. The fourth one is kind of in a vertical position. It's at the very top. And we were keeping this still by using the e-brake. It's up, so it locks the rear wheels and everything. We're gonna lower the car, drop the e-brake, rotate it 180 degrees. That way we can get to that bolt, relock the e-brake down, and break it loose, and we'll be able to pull out the drive shaft. And when you do the last one, you know, make sure you have the support for your drive shaft. That way it doesn't just drop. Typically they won't. They're usually pretty fused onto the pinion of your differential and sometimes require a little encouragement of like a rubber mallet to kind of break it off. But just a heads up, especially if you've removed it recently, you may want to just make sure you got a little support there. The last bolt, oh, there we go. That's what I was talking about. A little bit, we're just gonna tuck a rag in here. Just like that. All right, drive shaft's out. So now we're gonna remove this cover that kind of goes under the steering rack, bolts to the front subframe, and this will allow us to access all of the bolts around the bell housing going to the transmission. 14 mil, you got 6 nuts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you'll need a 17 mil for these 2 bolts. There we go. Well, look, some goodies. It's not just a boulder.
It's a rock. A rock.
You know what time it is?
What time is it?
Jacket's coming off. Oh, yeah. Jacket's coming off. It's getting hot. We're about to do the transmission. All right, so order of operations from here is personal preference. And I got some tips from the techs. So what we're gonna do is disconnect this connector here for O2s and get that one bolt out of the way and kind of tuck it away. And what that's going to allow us to do is break the clutch line free. We're gonna remove this bolt, that way this line from the CSC and the hard line here that ends up connecting the body, we'll be able to disconnect it, drop this insulated line down, and allow it to drain out. Because here, like I said, we're doing the full CSC Elimination V2. We're gonna give them all new fluid, re-bleed the whole system, all that. So that way, this can be dripping down and bleeding out while we're doing the whole bell housing, the harness, the whole rest of it. Kyle gave me a pro tip. If for some reason you don't need to drain all the fluid, like if your reservoir up at your clutch master cylinder is good and you don't need all new fluid, what you can do is disconnect the line and then press your clutch pedal down, and it's open, so it will stay to the floor, and that will actually block off the reservoir from draining all the way out this line, so you can keep the fluid there. Obviously the line will be empty, you'll still have to bleed it out, but that way you're not wasting all of your fluid if you're not trying to. That'd be really cool. Bibs.
Bibs?
Like bibs. That like overall bibs.
Or you put a little
That way I could like put
bolts in
put
there?
my sockets and stuff. Like I don't have to use my pockets in my jeans. That way I could just keep it all here.
Kind of like a
That way I don't have to keep going back and forth to the table.
stylish-
Now, just while I'm here, before I go any further, set that guy down. I'll go ahead and do this one as well. Whew. And that's why impacts are your friends. So I don't think this one is really required to remove, but it's just going to give me a little extra room to work with this clutch line. It does help. Don't need a Sean to change the clutch and flywheel, but it helps. Thank you, Sean. So he gave me a 10 mil flare line wrench. You can see this thing's pretty beefy at that end. Try not to use a standard 10 because they're a little bit thinner, and it's very easy to round out those flare nuts on clutch lines, brake lines, things like that. Thank you, Sean. Got our 10 mil flare. We're gonna disconnect this one here that goes into the slave cylinder. We'll pull that out, pull this pin out, and let this whole line here just kind of dangle and drain down in the pan while we do the rest. There we go. Yep, there she goes. So don't get it on your pane or anything like that. So once I get this guy fully disconnected and drop down this pan, I'm going to throw these gloves away and replace it and clean off the tool. Now we're cooking with peanut oil. This retaining clip here, pair of pliers, we're just gonna pull it down to the ground, and then that whole line can kind of rest. We'll push it out of the way. Let's see if I can get it like this. There we go. Ooh, you just gotta know what you're doing. That was so easy. That's awesome. All right, so now I can just drop this guy out of there, let him dangle over here, and finish coming out. Now let's jump to the other side and start doing this harness. So it comes down from up here. We got connectors and 10 mils kind of all the way down this side, and then a little bit of it wraps around the back over to the driver's side. So you start up here at the top, these two 10s, and just follow the loom, and you'll see where each 10 mil is, where all the connectors are. Text did say at the top of the transmission on 370s, there's a connector at the very top with the clip that you have to depress to pull it out. It's very hard to get to if the transmission's still fully up. So we'll get most of it out, and then we probably leave that one for last, do all the bell housing bolts, and then we'll lower the transmission slowly to give us a little more room to pull it out, and then we'll drop the trans 100%. Yeah. I know it's gonna be hard to see, but I'll try my hardest to show you guys. I'm gonna do these two 10 mils, And it's always good practice that when you do this, once we move this whole plate to the side, I will thread these 10 mils back into the side of the transmission. That way, it's easy not to lose track of anything. All right, so now working down the line, rather than going this way first, I'm gonna go down to the O2s, depress and disconnect these guys. That one's already broken off of its little mounting plate. Here on that pin, there we go. I'm just gonna hit it with a pair of pliers and just pop that right out. If you follow the wiring, it's self-explanatory, like what all you have to disconnect and where. Cool. Now, there's a 10 mil right here to get this off. Yeah. I know I'm kind of blocking the view right now. I'm sorry, you guys. All right, exact same thing on the opposite side. So you'll have to kind of push the harness out of the way to get to that little guy. Holy red. Uh-oh. That was called luck. There's this connector right here. Bell housing bolts, 1/4 inch. Confusion. Dave, the technicians have stressed extreme importance. If you want to look over here, we're looking towards the back of the car. That is an inspection plate. Now, just looking at it, and honestly, my first time I ever did a clutch, I would have done the same, or I did do the same. That is bolted to the transmission, but there is metal behind it. If you don't remove this 10 mil and remove this inspection plate, you can get the trans out, but you will bend it. Like, it's a plate here, but there's metal here. So when you go to pull the transmission out, you will bend it this way. And it's very easy to overlook. So grab a 10, take that guy off. There we go. Yeah. For the inspection for the back of the flywheel. Yeah, if you didn't remove this, I believe it catches up top here. So when you pull the transmission back to detach it, it'll just end up bending it and mauling this thing up to the point where you can't reuse it. And you don't want to leave an open hole like that. Water, road debris will get in there, possibly contaminate your clutch. It's just a bad idea.
Gonna have a bad time.
Along, some thread in towards the rear of the vehicle, some thread in towards the front of the vehicle. We're just gonna start with these two right here next to the inspection plate and work our way around. 14s and swivel, absolutely. Almost there. Bingo. Cool. And now we got 114 that rather than bolting from the front towards the back, it goes from the back towards the front on the starter. So let's go grab that guy. This one, bolt went that way. That one, bolt goes that way. And now this is where the starter comes loose and you can move it out of the way. There is a cover on the positive connection to the starter. So you should be fine, but this is why we disconnected the negative battery terminal. That way, even if that cover's gone or I accidentally moved something somewhere, there's no way to short anything out. Just a little safety precaution. Oh, I didn't bust my knuckles, but I busted my face on the lift. There we go. I believe, Dave, we are ready to go for these 17s. So 2 on the passenger side right here. And then there's one more that you can see further up. And then if we go to the other side, 2. And then there is one more up there that you can see. So you can visibly see 3 of them on each side. There are 2 more that punch the center at the very top. If any of your bolts are messed up, you strip any of them, you're missing some of them. Dave,
Yes?
you're missing some bolts.
Won't be the first time.
Z1 does sell a transmission bolt kit that uses all the OE hardware. Again, you don't need a Sean, but it helps. I did a thing. Thanks, Sean. I'm gonna go back to the normal size one, smaller. Probably use this ratchet though, and let's get those 6 that we can see first. Ooh. God, it's so nice having the right tools for the right job. Yeah. Jump to Excalibur. There we go. Yeah, it is a little big. Yeah, that one was on there. All right. That should be cool. Now, the very top one on the passenger side, as you back it out, you're gonna feel a wiggling metal plate. That's a mounting plate for the vent tube on top of your transmission. So leave that guy connected, but just to let you know when you back it out, you'll feel it's there. All right, guy. You're just gonna pull this guy down and this 12 here. You're gonna loosen the bolts. The nut is a welded part of your shift linkage. So there is no nut that'll come off or anything like that. So just put that wrench on it and break that guy loose. You may have to kind of like pull it down. And then as you pull this out, it's gonna wanna shoot up a little bit. There we go. We can get the jack, do these 4 14s, pull that connector, and pull the transmission off. And this guy. Extend everything else out. Success. All right, so that clip's really hard to get to. We have plenty of wiggle room with the harness. I'm gonna go ahead and slide the transmission back off the engine and then kind of drop it a little bit, and that'll give me enough room to get up and disconnect that final section of the harness. So yeah, this one's almost impossible to see. There we go. All right, beautiful. One end of that hose just slips on this. There's no clamp, nothing, it just slides on. And the other end of that bracket, like I was talking about on that 17 mil bell housing bolt, bracket goes here and then the bolt goes through it, keeping it there. Oh, what do you know? It's a good bronze pilot bushing. Dave, this one doesn't have an auto and a manual.
You're not supposed to have 2 pilot bushings?
No, it just has one. It had a auto pilot bushing and a manual pilot bushing. Now we're going to do pressure plate, clutch, and then flywheel, 12 mil on all the pressure plate bolts. And little pro tip, you got your new clutch kit already. You got it from Z1. It'll come with a plastic alignment tool for the clutch disc. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in there. That way when I take the pressure plate off, I can kind of hold it with one hand and zip them off. The plate will come off, but then the alignment tool will hold the disc to the flywheel. That way it's not all falling down on me at one time. So just take your alignment tool, put it in. There you go. That way all I gotta do is worry about the plate. Always kind of go in a star pattern and a little bit at a time all the way around, because if you just do them all at once and back them all out at once with one hit, the pressure plate will like end up bending and warping. Oh. Might be stuck on a few dowels, just kind of wiggle it and she'll come off. But, oh yeah, let's check this and see how much wiggle it has. So that we would consider excessive play. Good thing is, we got a Z1 performance lightweight single mass flywheel. So let's find a way to lock down our crank pulley, keep it in place. That way I can bust these loose, because if you just put a star in there and try to start breaking these bolts loose, engine will just turn over the internals. There's nothing holding it still. we're just gonna remove this under shroud. If you have a Z1, it's all 10 mils. Just unzip it all. There we go. I'll leave this here. I'll grab the right tool for the flywheel to come off and borrow a friend to kind of hold the crank still while we bust these things loose. So Alex here is gonna give me a hand. I'm gonna go on the other side. I'm breaking loose flywheel bolts, but as I do that, like, see the flywheel spins with the crank. So I need you to hold this still while I break the bolts loose. So going in that direction. All right, that's one.
Nice.
Cat-like.
That was sick. Bye, Alex.
Bye, bud.
Wait,
All right. Holy crap, I forgot how heavy these things are. Oh, dude, like, that's, ooh.
get an arm
Yeah,
workout. Right?
yeah, that's heavy. Awesome. All right, so clutch flywheel's out. Now, transmission we pulled out, factory CSC is in here. We're gonna get rid of it because it will fail on you. And we're gonna go with the CSC V2 kit. So first thing, you got an Allen right here. Just put a, what is that, T30 on it. Back that guy out. And then you're gonna switch to your 10 mil. And remove these two 10 mils right here. And then this will slide out in one piece. Just like that. That line off, maybe. Like that. Pull the factory CSC off. Take that off. And then your factory CSC, you're gonna take over here and throw it away for good. Got cordless impact, 12 mil, and an extension just to make it a little easier. We're gonna remove all of these 12 mils along the full perimeter of this front cover. I see.
The iron exposed on the inside.
Gotcha. Cool. Now that we got all those taken off, we can pull this front cover forward. And it does have a gasket. There is some RTV on those bottom holes, so it may be a little tight. This edge right here, you kind of put your finger behind and put a little bit of pressure and try to pull it forward. And it will eventually set itself free. All right, just gonna clean that up with a rag, kind of wipe it off. I don't want to spray any brake cleaner or anything in this because that will get into here and behind there. There's gear oil, everything. Just clean rag, kind of wipe it down. Make sure it's clear of any debris. Those 4 bottom holes do protrude through into the actual gear case itself. So there is a little bit of RTV. You can kind of see down here at the bottom, like little kind of chunks and stuff. So when we put it all back together, we'll get all that cleaned out. I just want to make sure there's none on the mating surface when we put this new cover on. Cool. So this thing's hot. You see that? Look at it. You can even see the tool marks from where it's like machined out. This thing's spicy. So take your front cover, your new gasket included. We give you everything you need. You're just gonna slide this on over your input shaft and line it up. Just like that. There we go. That looks good. I can see clearly each thread for each hole through all the bolt holes. So now we'll take our silver ones, which are all the ones kind of on the upper half, and those are like totally encapsulated blind holes, as Max would call it. So I'm not going tight at all. I'm doing this just by hand on an extension, just to get them a little hand tight. That way everything sits in place. And like I say on literally everything, try to go in star pattern. Don't go one and then the one directly next to it. Try to crisscross when you can. That just guarantees a perfect fit every time. Dave, that thing is spicy. Cool, so the 4 bolts on the bottom, like I said, RTV. You can see where the RTV was, kind of right there. So let me see if I can get a wire brush and kind of clean some of that out. Go around and scrape that old stuff off. There we go. Just one little spot. Yeah. Bit here in the bottom one, we'll start there. Yeah. Go perimeter and kind of snug all these guys up. Cool. All right, so front cover's on, and I've said it 4 times in this video so far, but yeah, that looks really good. Such a sick looking kit. Cool, so covers in, new billet sleeve, right? All nice, one piece. Koyo throw bearing, same Koyo we use in almost all of our kits that kind of change up stuff like this. Really trusted, no issues. This needs to be pressed on. So luckily, we're in a shop. So we have a press over in our diff building room, and we're gonna get some help from Kason and let these become one part. So, hey bud.
Oh boy. Whoa, this is a restricted area, man. You can't be filming.
No cameras here.
This is not.
So welcome to our engineering department.
This isn't working like I planned.
You don't need 3D scanners, you don't need CNCs, you don't need 3D printers, you just need a vise.
But you need a bearing press.
And a Kason.
Sure.
Yeah. And an Asher.
And an Asher.
And a hammer.
And today we've also needed Sean, so, and Kyle, and Max, because he explained
A total of like 6 people.
to change your clutch and flywheel into 370Z.
You just come in here and mess with my stuff.
Whole janky tower.
Man, if you don't stop, I'll go make you press this on yourself.
We got our throw bearing pressed onto our sleeve, so all that's good. But next we're gonna do the chromoly ball. When you get the kit, there's gonna be 2 washers that come with this ball. Here, let me separate these so they're a little easier to see. If you're using a Z1 clutch kit, I'm sure most of you guys will, you're gonna be using this thicker washer. I'm just gonna slide it over and then thread this guy in. If you're using Nissan factory clutch or anything else like that, you're gonna use the thinner one. For full specs, if you need full measurements on stack heights and everything, you can reference the actual written installation guide found in the listing for the CSC Elimination V2. So you're gonna take it, thread it into that open spot. Again, we're using a Z1 clutch kit, so the thick washer. Just 19 mil socket, and just, cool, that's all you need. Pulling out the lube. A little bit of grease goes a long way, guys. The biggest thing with grease that you don't want to do is overdo it and have any globs sitting around everywhere. You just need a thin layer on the greasable parts, which we're about to go over all of them. But the biggest reason why is if you have a big glob that's kind of stuck on some of these splines, especially kind of more towards the forward part of the car, and you're revving, it's spinning, and it slings a piece and gets on your clutch disc, it's ruined. Like the clutch is gonna start slipping, it'll get on the flywheel, the pressure plate, and it spreads and smears all over, and then you just did all this work for no reason. A little bit on the side like that, single finger, and just kind of work your way around this. Maybe just a tad more. But again, thin, smooth layer, no globs. You should not be able to see any kind of grease sticking off or protruding. Same thing goes for the input shaft right here on the splines, because the clutch does ride on it and does need to kind of move a little bit back and forth. So take a little bit, just kind of work it in the splines, rub it around just like that. A little bit on the pivot ball, and we're also going to put a little bit on the inside of the new fork, clutch fork, where the pivot ball snaps into. This is the new forged fork, forged steel that comes with this kit. This part of the ball down here, I'm going to put a little bit of grease that I got left over from my glove. This one you can go a little bit heavier on because this pivots on that ball and rocks back and forth like this, but it's facing the other way, and once the ball snaps into place, it's not 100% captive, but it is kind of sealed off from the rest. So you can put a little bit more in there, but again, less is more in this situation. You don't need to go heavy with it. Like that, give you a little wiggle just to kind of see the shine in there, but that's really all you need. The last piece is the inside of the bearing sleeve. This rides on that shaft right there that we already put a little bit of grease on, but we're just gonna put a little bit more on. That, you see that, it's too much. Take it off. Like I said, thin layer, less is more. Cool, just like that. You're gonna get 2 springs in your kit. Let me show you the other one. This guy goes with your bearing and your sleeve, right? And it'll help hold these forks kind of in place. It's for that one. We'll talk on that in a second. This one is for the chromoly pivot ball. So you see here, Dave, you can kind of rock in one spot, and then now you just need to push that other one in. Let me see, you might be able to do it by hand. Yeah, you probably could. It's gonna hurt. So, just for the sake of my hands, we'll use pliers. There we go. So it sits just like that. So now when we run this through the tunnel and put the chromoly ball right there and push it on, it'll snap into that hole, and we'll keep it captive there the whole time. One last piece I forgot to mention on greasing is these, when you see the Z1 logo on the fork, these points right here make contact with the bearing sleeve like that, and that's how when you press the pedal it rocks forward. You do need to put just a touch of grease on these, and then would not hurt to put them on those as well. Bingo. All right, so we got all of our components greased up, and we got the spring for our bearing sleeve and throwout bearing. Step 1, when you get to this part, this has to go in first. You're gonna just drop it through the window, kind of twist it, and then don't snap it on the pivot ball, but just kind of like rest it on there, kind of let it hang. This spring, you're gonna slide into this groove, just like that. Clock just like that. So now these ears are gonna face away from the clutch fork. So we're gonna slide this on the input shaft, and then we need to stretch it around. There's little slots on the back side of the clutch fork where you can see that the spring kind of fits in. So now you can stretch that spring and kind of snap it on the top side. Good. And then snap it in place just like that. Thank you, Max.
Maybe get yourself a Max.
Yeah. Max is actually the guy that designed this kit, so he's been kind of giving us little steps along the way. So,
Get yourself a Max.
yeah, along with everybody else that's helped in this video. So now that you got the spring on, it's attached to the sleeve throwout bearing. Now we can just pop that guy right in, and look at that. Cool. So that should be it for the internal pieces. So now we can spin this guy around and start working on the outside. So that wraps up the components on the inside of the transmission. And the best part about it is you're done. The only thing here that needs to be serviced for the future life of the car is the throwout bearing. And then when you replace that, if it wears out, you know, a little bit of grease here and there, but that's it. There's no slave cylinder anymore on the inside of this transmission. So what you're gonna wanna do now is take the transmission and put it back into the car. Slide it in, stab the engine, all that, and then we'll meet you guys back there to do the slave cylinder relocation, all the clutch line, and then heat shielding around that once we get it back in the car. Okay, thanks, Kyle. All right, clutch, flywheel, all removed. Now it's time to get that old pilot bearing out. Got a pilot bearing puller. So we're just gonna wedge this guy all the way in there. Kind of wiggle it around, keep tightening that guy. Cool, that feels good. And then we will slide it out. One more, two more.
6 more.
There we go. That thing looked perfectly fine. So really, I would say you could reuse this. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't feel any grooves, no cuts, but we're already here. It comes in your clutch kit. Might as well replace it. Pilot bearing out, new one going in. Just kind of start seating it a little bit in there. Kind of wiggle it to get it, just to get it started. And then 15 mil impact socket using the back end. Kind of seat that right over just like that. And then we can start hammering it in straight, going in. Do not like this. This is not a big enough head. Keep going, and you want it just flush with the crank. I should be able to hear it. Yeah, there it goes. I could hear the pitch change as it started making contact with the crank. So if you put your pinky in there, it should be just flush with the crank, and then you should be able to feel the end of it behind it. That way, as you go to service it again, you'll be able to get in there with the puller, spread the fingers, and pop it right out. CSC's in, transmission's good, ready to go. Let's put flywheel and clutch in. First things first, these flywheels, when you get it, they will come oily, and that is to prevent rust from happening while they sit on the shelf, transportation to you guys. You know, back of a UPS or a FedEx truck can get pretty damp. So yeah, just to protect it, but definitely when you put it on, hit it with some brake clean over a trash can, something like that. And now when you go to install this onto the back of your crankshaft, there's a dimple right there. It's the only one. All the rest of these are flywheel bolt holes. That dimple needs to line up with that dimple on the crank. If you don't know to look for it, it is very easy to put the crank on, and you would think it would stop it before it seats all the way on. There's nothing behind that dimple on the crank. So as you tighten the flywheel bolts, you'll push that dimple in, and you'll get it all back together. Clutch pedal will feel fine, all good. Car won't start because crank position sensor is realizing the flywheel is off from where it should be. And then you have to do it all over again. Find that dimple, kind of hold it up, clock it just right. Just like that. And then walk that flywheel on. Cool, there we go, that looks good. Now I'll grab the flywheel bolts. There's absolutely nothing wrong with using the ones that you took out, as long as you didn't do any damage on the way out. Same thing with the pressure plate bolts. If they all look fine, you didn't damage any thread, you can totally reuse them. If you need new ones, we have them on the website. Loctite on these guys. Just a little dab, there you go. Just one kind of thin line down the full line of thread, that's it. Start it in. Thread it in by hand until it stops, and work your way around, and then we'll torque them to spec.
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right, I got Alex here. He's gonna hold the crank still on the front end with the 19 mil, and I got my T55 set on a torque wrench to 65 foot-pounds.
Yep.
Seven, 8, good to go. Thank you. All right, now that we got the flywheel on and torqued down, next, clutch disc. Lucas went with the sprung hub because he wanted to keep a little bit of a OE feel. That way it dampens, some shift shock that may occur. We do have a unsprung if you want that, or even a ceramic 6-puck if that's your thing. So you're gonna hold your clutch disc up like that. Try not to touch the friction material. Try to stay on the outside edges of it, and then stab it through with the alignment tool, just like that. All right, pressure plate. So bolts all the way around. There are dowels in specific spots. This can only go on the flywheel one way. So hold it up, kind of clock it, you'll figure it out. Like what you can do is you see the 3 bolt holes here, and then there's a dowel right here on, if you were to go 1, 2, 3, there's a dowel on the inside of hole number 3, just like, oh. That. Cool. So that dowel lines up, that dowel lines up, and there should be one more right there. Just to hold that pressure plate up. Sweet. Just like that, by hand, and then repeat all the way around, and then we'll start our 2-step torque process.
You're good.
Yeah, there we go, just that little bit. Cool. Torque wrench set to 11 foot-pounds for stage 1. So you're gonna do this just like everything else in a star pattern. So. That's 8. 9. Cool. Now that they're all at 11, final torque of 29 foot-pounds, and what we got? I'm sorry, 29 pound-feet. Pound-feet. All right, so that's all 3, 6, 9, yeah, 9 bolts, torque to 29. All good. Double checked them all, we're good to go. So now you can pull your alignment tool out. So that's on, that's good to go. Now let's get this transmission back in the car. It's reverse process from what you guys saw. We'll start with that one really hard to get to clip connector rather, once we get the trans kind of close to its position. And then we'll slide it back onto the engine, and then bolting everything up and put the harness back together. And then we'll finish up the CSC kit once it's all bolted, because that CSC kit mounts using a replacement bolt for your starter. So that's why we waited. And yeah, enjoy this montage. All right, now that we're back in the car, this line's got to go. So 10 mil flare line again at the body. Oh yeah, God, that was so satisfying. So I know it's gonna be kind of hard to see, but what you're gonna do is push this line through that hole and into that hard line, and then this kind of hex head will fit in that slot. So it should fit flush. So just kind of push it in, start threading the top, and then you'll clock this as you're giving it kind of an upward pressure, and it'll snap into place. And then this retaining clip will slide through here and lock it into place. So, and then take my retaining clip and then make sure it goes in this orientation. And just give it a few love taps. Where to go? I think that's it. So hard line's on. Our new clutch line is connected to the hard line, and we just got to kind of sit in here. We'll connect it over to the slave in a little bit. Now you're going to install your window. Just like that. Now that we got that clutch line on, we got this little window here, we're going to remove this bracket from the, there we go. And you got two clips here on this one. One there. And now you're gonna take your Z1 slave bracket and bolt it through the starter with the new bolt. There we go. Now once we got the Z1 slave bracket on, it's time to bolt your slave. So 2 supplied. What size are these? 13s. You're gonna wanna feed them in like that and compress the slave cylinder a little bit, and then start threading them in. Good. Boom. There's a hole right at the top of the Z1 slave bracket that this will go through, and this Allen bolt will go through. So we'll hold it over. Thread that guy on. And then you saw us remove those 2 brackets on the harness right here. You're gonna clip it right there. But clip it with what, you might ask? Luckily we're providing a conduit with another Allen bolt. So this guy is really malleable. You can just stretch it out. We'll kind of tuck this up. That way this isn't dangling. Kind of close to where this existing one is. If you want to cut it off once you do this, you're more than welcome to. There's really no need to keep it, but this isn't my car, so we'll just keep it there in case the owner wants to make any changes in the future. So, and then you can just, and boom. Take the banjo and 1 copper washer, just like that. Grab your clutch line. Where'd it go? There it is. And you're gonna run through like that. And then you're gonna take the other copper washer and sandwich that banjo bolt. And now it will take a little finesse. This line is braided steel, so it doesn't want to bend, it doesn't want to move, and just kind of clock it how you need to. And then once you line it up, you should be able to thread that banjo bolt right in. And just good and snug right there. And then make sure that line, it shifted up a little bit as I tightened it. That's fine, just make sure it doesn't make contact with the bleeder because we're gonna need to get to that to bleed the clutch. All right, so that's it for the CSC V2 kit. All you gotta do from here is just bleed the system as normal. Let's go ahead, we'll get the rest of the car back together and then we'll jump back into that. All right, so we paused for a second to show you guys a key component if you're going to remove your shifter, right, for this install, whether you're just doing it for simplicity, just to get it out of the way, or you're upgrading to the short shifter. A lot of people get this part, I'm putting this plate back in, wrong. So I'm gonna get these 3 10 mils that we set up here, threaded back in. But your reverse lockout is right here, right? That's what stops you from going too far over in reverse when you're not pressing down. So real quick, let's connect that 12 mil back, put in there, then we'll drop it back down, come in, and show you how to adjust this properly. Because if you don't, if you've done it before, 5th and 6th get entirely way too hard to get into, and then even reverse can be a little tricky. So let's go put that 12 mil back on, and then we'll come back up here. All right, when you guys are putting back down this 12 mil, you don't want to crank it down too much, just like a good snug. Just cool. Now the hard part is stretching this boot back on. I'll stretch it on, we'll drop the car, and then we'll adjust that plate up top and put the interior back together. Cool. So now we're back in Lucas's car. Thanks, Lucas. So I'm gonna snug these 10 mils down just a little bit. You don't want them too tight. I'm gonna show you guys how to adjust this properly. That way you don't have any issues. If you already know this part, you can skip it, but for you guys doing it for the first time, it's very crucial. It has a tolerance of going left or right. See that? The bolts are staying still, but especially right there, you can see it going left and right. What you want to do, like there, I'm going over, I'm not pressing down, I'm just going over. I cannot go into 5th or 6th. I traveled too far. So what you do, 4th, that is 6th. And you want to push this plate over to where it's almost touching this little lockout right here, and then tighten it down. Put in 6th, put this plate kind of right up against that notch, just like a hair off of it, and then tighten these 3 bolts down. Neutral, 3rd, 4th, 2nd, 1st, 5th, 6th, reverse. Good to go. All right, we'll put the rest of this interior back together, make the connector, put the trim piece back on, all that, and then we'll go under the car, drive shaft, exhaust, and then we can bleed the clutch. One is your tricky piece. It's all one. You just got to be really careful sliding this back in. Thread it on like that. Pull it down into 4th and kind of slide the bottom in, and then rock it in just like that. But I got it started here, and now I'll just kind of run my finger along and get it seated. There we go. So push that boot back down, and then now we can take our 4 10 mils and run these back in and secure this plate back to the body. So now that those 4 bolts are in, we can put this center trim piece back in, that connector, pop that back in, and then you're going to want to slide the front in first and then the back. So you're up against these 2 leather bolsters. Just try to be careful. Slide your leather boot over and then push down, and it'll be very obvious when it's in. Boom. Boom. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Reverse. We're good to go. Sweet. Let's go into the car, put the drive shaft in, exhaust, bleed a clutch. We don't want to loosen them. All right, guys, if you've done all this and you're doing it at home, you're troopers. We're finally here, bleeding the clutch. It's the last thing. Everything's back together, drive shaft, exhaust, transmission, harness. CSC Elimination V2 is in. This is my first time putting hands on it. Love it. Like, it really did go together really easy. So everything's good. We're gonna lower the car, open up the cap for the reservoir on the master cylinder for the clutch, top it off with some fresh Motul. I think we're gonna go with 5.1 on this one. And then you will need a buddy if you don't have like a power bleeder or something. So we'll put somebody in the car to pump the pedal and then somebody underneath to open and close the bleeder. Yeah, I don't think we've done any. Nifty little trick. This sits on top. That way as we bleed, we don't have to come out from underneath the car, re-top off the reservoir once it gets so low. If you're doing this at home, you don't have something like this, you will have to keep an eye on the reservoir, because if you're bleeding it out and you get too low and then you suck in air, you got to repeat the whole process. So this just kind of sits open and guarantees that that reservoir stays full the entire time. We'll go underneath the car. I'll go underneath there with a wrench on the slave cylinder, leave it closed. Lucas is going to jump in the car. When he first hits the clutch pedal, it's going to go straight to the floor and it won't return. So he's going to have to do it with his hand. Slow pumps. And the idea is sets of like 10, usually 10 to 15. So throw it down, pull it up slow, throw it down, pull it up slow. We'll do 10. I'll crack open the bleeder, hopefully air. I'll kind of hear like a little hissing come out. And then when it's done, I close it back and we repeat that process. Another 10 slow pumps, and we just keep going until I get fresh, clean fluid out. The pressure feels good to him, and there's no air bubbles in it when I'm opening that bleeder. Look and make sure everything's good, no leaks. All right, closed.
All right, the clutch is returning now.
Cool. Yep, keep it going. And let's go a little past 10. Let's do 15. Yeah, cool. Oh, perfect. Yeah. Cool, so bled out, all good. Lucas has pedal pressure. There is a slight dead spot at the top. We're gonna work on that. He's gonna take it home because we turned the car on, kind of went through the gears while it was in the air, and it was engaging in every gear fine, so it should be good. But he's got a decent drive home, so we're gonna let him get out of here. When he comes back in the morning, we'll see what he thought, how it feels, and maybe an additional bleed or pedal adjustment from there. So yeah, let's find out. But just kind of go through like... All All right, so we're back. It's the next day. Lucas took the car home and no issues. Everything seems perfect. So for the next 500 miles, he's gonna break in that clutch, just normal street driving, you know, normal shifts, not launching it, not power shifting, anything like that. 500 miles should be a good break-in period, and then he'll be good to go and rip it as much as he wants. So there you go. That's how you change a flywheel, clutch, and install the CSC Elimination V2 on a 370Z. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment on what install videos you guys would like us to do next.